You say our metabolism does not slow down from age 20 to 60, which, I was amazed. A lot of people are even just hearing me say that right now, because we have definitely been told that people gradually gain weight in those years, and most attribute it to, oh, my metabolism slowed down. So tell us about our metabolism kind of throughout our whole life. And I know that sounds like a long explanation, but just give me some bullets, because your newest book, which I mentioned, Eat to Beat Your Diet, really focuses on this.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, as a doctor, I went to medical school being taught metabolism by my professors, pretty much in the same way that I think most people can go onto Google and search metabolism. And in 2 seconds, you're going to get inundated with a lot of scientific descriptions of what sounds like a super complicated process. And yet everybody knows inherently what metabolism is for them. It's the amount of energy I have. It's, how my body controls weight. And so one of the reasons I wrote this book, Eat to Beat Your Diet, is because so much of our ideas of metabolism and dieting and body fat have been really loaded topics, right? I mean, you think about it, when you think about body fat and you think about dieting, immediately the whole discourse has been fear, guilt, shame, judgment, and it really makes everything rather unpleasant to think about.
It's like it's our fault that our metabolism is slowing, right?
Exactly. So look, I mean, I'm a scientist, and so a vascular biologist. So one of the things that scientists do is that we're able to put on our scientific hat and basically say, you know what? We don't know anything. Let's just go in there and explore and see what the truth actually is. So I wrote this book with a completely open mind to saying, even the stuff I was taught may or may not be true. Let's go figure out, what do we know in today's time? And so here is the answer. Now, metabolism can be explained in a very complicated way, but I like to share my understanding in a simple way. Metabolism is, very simply put, how our body gets the energy it needs to fuel our activities of daily living. So, in fact, it's very similar to how we drive a car. So if you have a car and, it's a gas car, you get in your car for one purpose only, which is to go from point A to point B. You don't give any thought during that ride to how the car's carburetor and fuel injection system goes into the engine and primes the pistons or anything like that. You don't care. You just want to go from A to B. And yet that's really how our body is as well. All we care about is getting to A to B. But like a car, we actually have this process inside us that has to be fueled up, just like we go to the gas station to fuel up your car, fill up our tank. In the cases of our metabolism, surprisingly, our fuel tanks for our car are attached to the side of the car. You fill them up with the nozzle. Our fuel tanks for our body actually is healthy body fat. Our fat is our fuel tank. And so, in fact, it's a critical part of our health. You want to actually fuel health. I mean, and listen, you're an athlete. You're like a super athlete. So, if you actually lose all of your body fat to like as close to zero as possible, it actually compromises your ability to perform. So keeping, there's a whole thing about having bad extra body fat, but having too little is also not good. So you really want to have the right amount, okay? And the right amount is actually to have fuel tanks around. And then like your car, your metabolism is going to be able to draw that fuel and power up your arms, your legs, your heart, your brain, all the pistons, all the pieces in your body to get you from point A to point B. That's what our metabolism is. And the secret to our metabolism is the quality of the fuel, when we fuel up, and how we actually treat the body, just the same way as we car. If you drive your car like a maniac, it's not going to last as long. It's not going to perform as well. If you actually fuel your car up all the time, you might risk overloading the gas. And if you put low quality fuel in your car, it'll run okay for a little while, but over the course of the life of your car, you're going to actually degrade the car. And so I like to tell people to think about metabolism as that process that our body uses to get fuel, you use fuel.
Okay, so this makes me think about different styles of eating in terms of timing, what you're saying. So as an athlete, and then, now not really an athlete, but I exercise every day. And I've always felt best if I eat small amounts of food, throughout the day. I mean, I probably eat 6 times a day, and I feel amazing. So I haven't had any inspiration to change it up or to try intermittent fasting or intermittent diet. But we hear a lot about intermittent fasting these days, and we've had people talk about it on the podcast, and I know people that are doing it. So when you're talking about our metabolism, right, and getting the energy we need to fuel our daily living, I'm curious about different timings of eating, and is it different based on just you and who you are, or is there something to this intermittent diet thing? I'm still probably not going to try it because I feel awesome, but I do not like the bonk, right? I learned that as an athlete, so I feel better when I'm just slow, little amounts of food all throughout the day.
Well, look, I mean, I think it's very important to understand that as somebody who studies food as medicine, time and time and again, what we're discovering is how individual every person, single person is, and different from one another. You're different than me and vice versa, and from our next door neighbor and our family members. And that's perfectly fine. But there are some general rules of thumb. And I'll tell you, the reason that we want to eat, feel like eating, is because our brains, the gas gauge in our car is in our brains, tell us that our fuel tank is running on empty. It's going towards empty, and it's time to put some fuel in the gas tank. And we need to pay attention to our body. One of the things that I always teach people is listen to your body. You want to actually pay attention to what makes you feel good and what your body is gravitating you towards. So, for example, when you feel hungry for your small meals, it's your body telling you, your fuel gauge is telling you, hey, Dotsie, let's put a little fuel in the tank right now. And that's totally fine as it works for you. What you should know is that when we need fuel in the tank, we eat food. One of the things that happens is that as we put food in our body, our insulin levels go up naturally because our insulin, working with a fat hormone called adiponectin, actually draws the fuel from our food and stores it into our fuel tanks, which happens to be our body fat. And so, like people go crazy about like insulin spikes and glucose spikes.
Yeah.
You know what? I sort of want people to kind of chill out about that, because those things do happen. But if you listen to your body and be reasonable, your tank is running on empty, go fill up. Don't eat too much. Don't overflow your tank. Okay. If you're at your gas station and when you put the nozzle in and it goes click, and the gas tank's full, you put the nozzle away and you drive off. Now imagine if there was no clicker, okay, and the gas tank filled up, what would happen? The gas would come out of the tank, spill down the side of the car, around the tires, around your shoes, and guess what? You would be standing in a dangerous, flammable mess, toxic mess. That's what happens when you overeat. So another part of listening to your body when you're eating, and I'm going to talk about timing in one second, but another part of listening to your body is pay more attention to when you're satisfied with eating versus when you are full and bloated, right? So you can stop when you eat slowly, more when you savor your food. Most people around the world that really enjoy, like cultures that enjoy their foods, they take their time eating, and they're eating and enjoying that flavor. And at some point you're going to go, wow, I feel okay. You don't have to have that bulge in your stomach that basically says, man, I am full anymore and I'm going to burst. And I think that what we've gotten to so often is this habit of eating until we're bursting, or we're feeling like we're going to burst. Listen to your body. Stop eating when you're satisfied, but before you are full. That's also listening to your body. Okay. And you can do that by eating a little bit more slowly as opposed to wolfing food down, because when you wolf, you can easily overeat. All right.
Which would be an argument for eating and just focusing on eating and not watching TV or a movie or doing 10 other things, like really just being there in that moment with the nourishment of the food. And you can then tell if you're full or not.
Yeah, exactly. And the
feel.
cultures that are healthiest, like the Mediterranean culture or Asian cultures, in my book, I call it Mediterranean style eating, which is how I eat. Think about it. In those cultures, very rarely do you eat alone. You eat with other people. Okay, so it's not you and your device scrolling. You're having a conversation. And in the Mediterranean and in Asia, often the conversation when you're sitting down to eating is talking about the food. Right. And so that's another kind of like point of departure to sort of like the way the habits that we've actually been accustomed to.